Have you ever wondered how some agents just seem to do it all? Like, not only are they boss ass agents, but they're also parents to small kids. They work out consistently, they do self development things, they have a healthy marriage and are just on top of all of their shit. Well, on today's show, we are going to talk about how to balance all of that and still actually love your life with our guest, Camille Bernal-Johnson out of Fayetteville, North Carolina. Here's what you can expect to learn on today's show: if balance is actually real or achievable, building a referral-based business, working with buyers who are relocating, specifically military relocations, tips on how to get your offer accepted, and stick around to the end to learn about the health benefits of fasting. Yes, plot twist. You're listening to the Agent Goldmine, the show for agents who've been around the block and are finally ready to build sustainable, scalable businesses that you actually love. Learn the exact steps to build businesses that run like a machine, one that you don't secretly hate or want to escape from. My name is Shelby Johnson, and my partner in crime is Ali Garced. We are both former military turned real estate entrepreneurs, agents, investors, team leaders, the whole shebang at EXP 5 Pillars Nation. And together we've closed hundreds of transactions, and we're here to share everything we've learned and what we are actively doing now in our businesses. So check out theagentgoldmine.com for our free tools and resources. And otherwise, let's welcome Camille.
Welcome to the Agent Goldmine, the only podcast in the world specifically for real estate agents who are stuck at 5 transactions a year to help them get to 20 plus. Your hosts, Ali Garced and Shelby Johnson, 2 EXP icon agents, each do over 40 transactions a year and interview others who are crushing it. In this podcast, you'll receive the knowledge to help you scale your business using systems and processes with our interviews and monologues twice a week. If you want to be a part of our community, reach out. Welcome to the show.
Camille is one of my favorite people, and she is here with us today, finally, after far too long. My own fault for not having her on sooner. And for those of you who don't know Camille, she's out of Fayetteville, North Carolina, which is now Fort Liberty, not, Fort Bragg anymore. But Camille, it's less about that. It's more like Camille is a badass, and she's also one of those people who you meet who has like charisma and energy that is just like it pulls you in and like takes over you. And outside of that too, like, not that looks matter, but she's also like a fucking 10. Beautiful. So if you're not watching on YouTube, you should come over and check her out on YouTube. But guys, what I wanted to note before we jump into the topic that we all teased you with, which is, military, work with military, PCS, all that stuff. So Camille not only closed 17 transactions last year and capped at EXP, she's a part of 5 Pillars Nation family. But also she has a full-time husband. And she has 2 full-time kids, ages 5 and 7. And I'm always watching her go to sports games, and they do stuff together as a family. They like work out together. Camille's working out and always learning, growing, and improving herself personally, but also her business. And I just know that a lot of people out there, a lot of listeners out there have struggled with like doing it all. And from the outside looking in, it does look like you are doing it all and you're very well-rounded, well-balanced, while also running the business, but also as a solo agent. It's not like you're on a team. No one's feeding you leads, And so you didn't know I was going to ask this, but like, can you just tell us a little bit about like how you run your life? Like, how do you do it all? How do you do it all, Camille?
Well, first, thank you, Shelby. I thank you. So how I run it all is checklist. No, I'm just kidding. But basically,
Systems,
just
processes.
being organized. Yes, absolutely. Right. And so I feel like it's impossible to do it all and do it all effectively. But I think the more organized you are, the better that things turn out. So, obviously being an agent full time and then, being a spouse and a mom and all the other things and self-care, right, which is very important. And especially in our industry, because we just put ourselves last when we're like, let's, be first in everything. But I think just balance, right? So I think just being able to balance home life plus work life is a huge reason why I do it. I mean, but it's also why I do what I do, right? Because I do have the flexibility to do it all instead of, being behind a desk all day.
With your day, can you just real quick, and then Allie's like, so I didn't tell Allie that I wanted to go this direction at all. So this is really just a surprise with both of you. Sorry. But can you just walk us through a semi-typical day in your life? Like, do you feel like you do work thrown in random places as you can do it, or do you like time blocking? Like, I don't know. How do you set up your day?
So, as much as, there's so many people that are like time block, it's effective and blah, 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 right? Because, of course, that's what we hear all day. So when you have, like a life that's not always the same every single day, it doesn't work for me that way. So my day, right? So wake up, get the kids ready, get them off to school, go to the gym every day. It's not negotiable. And so come back, get ready, get on my computer. So realistically, from 10 to 2 is my work day. And that is like hardcore work, right? So I am, whether it's, doing showings, meeting with buyers, Zoom meetings, whatever I'm doing, um, closing appointments, whatever. And then pick up my kids. And then we have all the extracurricular activities after that. So, my kids are both in like 3 different sports. So the afternoons I usually will keep open for them. And then, of course, I have to get dinner ready, and then put them to bed at 7 o'clock to 8. And then after that, depending on what I have going on, I will hop on my computer or I will read or whatever I have been done for myself that day, I will do after hours. But I think the hardest part is being flexible with, so for example, if I have a closing and the only appointment is at 3 o'clock, right? So um, that is where I have to kind of figure out what my day is going to look like without me being a mother at 3 o'clock. So that's when things get a little bit challenging. So of course I'm going to show up for my clients. I will make it happen. But that's when I think things get a little flexible. But there's are non-negotiables in my day. And that is obviously being there for my kids and then obviously showing up for myself. But, I think I have an understanding with my clients when I first start working with them is that, I am a mom first. And then, obviously we'll kind of figure out schedules as we go along.
I want to talk about how that works with your spouse. And what is your spouse? You guys are working together. How does that work? Like, and like the just overall marriage, right? Like team, like working, he's supporting you. Or first, I guess, how do you guys work together? Is he licensed also?
Yeah, no, he's not an agent.
Okay.
So we're obviously, so it's kind of funny because the other day I read this thing that was like marriage is like a business, right? So it's like being a business partner. And like literally, if you don't have a business partner in your marriage, like you're not going to be successful because like you can't hold the weight, right? Especially when you have kids. Like I think, minus kids, like I think it's doable to do it all on your own. But I think with kids, like so that's where, at 3 o'clock, if I have to be at a showing, that's where he fills in, right? Or on the weekends on a Saturday when I have to be out Saturday and Sunday or whatever, do showings, that's where he fills in. 99% of the time, like obviously I'm going to be there all the time with my kids. But there might be like PCS season, right? Where mom is like a ghost. But I mean, that doesn't mean that I don't work around, like, I'm not going to miss one of my kids' games or performances or something like that, right? That's obviously the joy of being in real estate is that I can kind of work it around or not be available during those times. But if I have like a buyer consultation or a seller's consultation at 6 p.m., because that's when they get off work, then, obviously that's when, my partner is going to fill in and cook dinner. So, I mean, I'm definitely grateful and lucky to have that partnership to be able to have those moments when I need them for my clients.
Definitely. And I want to ask this. Well, actually, before I forget, I want to ask this. I kind of want to jump to how you mentioned that you tell your clients this, like you're a mother first.
Absolutely.
So, skipping past the marketing, skipping past the lead gen, going straight to like, how do you set up that expectation from the beginning with a client?
So that's all in my buyer consultation or my first intro call with my buyer or seller, depending on obviously if it's a listing or, whatever. Whenever I first meet my clients and we're kind of talking about, all right, how are we going to proceed forward? Is obviously, there's expectations that they have of me. So I'm always like, well, what are your expectations of me? It's like a huge question that I ask because I obviously wants to fulfill those expectations, right? Because I'm going to go above and beyond. But also, are they reasonable? If they're like, I want you
It's
I want you to get me 100K over asking. I'm like, okay, so I think having that conversation. And so when we go into expectations, my expectations of them is to be patient, because I am a mother first. And there are going to be some days or times that it might take me a little bit to respond to a text. Usually it's immediate, um, or it might be a time where I'm not available. So obviously it might be an hour I'm not available out of the day because it's a game or something like that. But I'm always grateful for them to be understanding that my family comes first. So that's how it's put.
Okay, perfect. So during your biggest bulk of the workday, 10 to 2,
Yes,
you drop the kids off at school, you're wherever you are at your do you work from home?
I do work from home.
Love it. Me too. All of us. Okay.
Same hermit.
Ugh. This is me being a hermit.
Good.
So
Beautiful.
10 to 2, I want to talk now about how do you find clients? Marketing, lead gen, what are you doing to get clients?
Yeah. So my 10 to 2 is definitely not all lead gen, because obviously it consists of like meetings and like being supportive of other agents and, mentees like that. But just my lead gen itself is obviously a big is social media. Not that I get like leads from social media. My biggest lead gen itself is going to be referrals through and through and through, or just sphere of influence. So like it's going to be people who know me. The social media aspect of it is just a reminder like, hey, I'm here, I'm selling homes, I'm super, invested into my clients, things like that. So it's just the reminder of me, hey, still in business. But realistically, it's referrals. So like either it's other agents, clients that have used me before, or because my clients are 100% military, then they will come from people who Kevin has been in the military with, who we like became friends with that, know somebody that's PCSing here.
Question with that. So, do you like actively stay in touch with the people who your sphere of influence and the people who refer you, or is social media like the primary nurture way for reminding people that you're in business? Follow on would be like, even if you're not like purposely reaching out, like, are you maybe it's sports games for your kids, maybe it's like activities in the community. What other touch points are you using to nurture to build this ideal business, which, most people, the dream is eventually getting to the point where their business can be 100% referrals or sphere of influence type of stuff?
Exactly. So any point of contact, right? So whether it's a game, whether we're on post, whatever, like you already know, Shelby, like I'm going to be speaking to somebody about something or whatever and slide in some type of real estate stuff, like whether it's I'm wearing a shirt that's like realtor or whatever. So I think point of contact is always, I mean, I do check in with the people I talk to on a regular basis that I've known from the military. Obviously, I'm always checking in and making sure they need anything, or if past clients, especially, like I'm huge on that. But social media is my way of reaching everybody just because like nobody has the time to be like, 200 text messages later. And I don't like to be so generic like that and send out like the bulk messages. Like I am very much personal. Like I'm an emotional person. So I want it to come like in my heart. So like, and I don't know that that's like the best business practice, right? Like icon agent type thing. But like for me, it's meaningful. And that's like what fills my cup is to be like, hey, I've touched base with you and I actually care like how your kids are doing. I'm not just sending it in like a bulk text or an email. So I do check in often, but social media I feel like is my biggest point. But of course, all my kids like do sports. So I'm always like talking to the other moms and like parents or whatever. So everybody knows I'm in real estate. Obviously, I'm making a point for them to know, but that's, obviously, and then, they do sports like on post as well. So boom, that's kind of where I'm at as far as like finding new leads.
Yeah. So very like relationship first, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. With your clients, do you mainly work buyers or sellers or what's the percentage there?
I would say mostly buyers, maybe like 2 to 5% of listings. And I like my buyers. So just because I get to spend more time with them, of course, like my emotional side, right? Is like I get to see their face light up when we go into a new house, and with the listing side, it's very short lived, and everybody's like, be a listing agent. Listing agents are awesome, and so for me, like my babies are the buyers, and the listings, that clients that I've worked with have been amazing. Obviously, they're military; they need a PCS, and everything has been great. But for me, I just enjoy it. Fills my cup up more. I feel like when you find someone and their family, like a home, because obviously we're like voluntold to move, right? So that's always fun.
Okay, cool. I when I first got licensed, I think my first year, I also liked working with buyers more, and I kind of wanted to put like money behind it, like as far as a reasoning. So I tracked how many hours I spent with each client. And this is going to sound like crazy, but that's how I realized that I was making more with buyers than I did with listings. However, at the time, I was also being the one that was doing all the open houses. But it's interesting. Like once it's even though a lot of people are like, become a listing agent, blah blah. If you like being the one that sees that like reaction of, oh my God, this is the house, and like those feelings, and like giving the keys over, like you are now a brand new like first time homeowner, or welcome to brag, it's different than we just netted you a fuck ton, like congrats seller. Bye.
Yeah, and and that felt good too, because then they're gonna put it on their next house. Like but man, for me, it's like we recorded, like this is so exciting. And then obviously, like getting ready, like getting their closing gift ready is like I'm a gift giver anyway, so that is like what I enjoy doing. It literally just makes me smile. I love it.
I want to go into organization, unless Shelby, you want to cover something. Okay.
I have like a million things I could say, but none of them are like, I'm just hanging out with my friends. So go ahead, Alex.
So, okay, how do you stay organized with your clients, with your referrals? I want to kind of go into systems and processes. I paid off one of my mortgages in just 4 months thanks to the shred method. I personally use the shred method to manage my money and crush my mortgage faster than I ever thought possible. The system was simple, the customer service is top notch, and the results speak for themselves. $121,000 of a mortgage balance gone in just 4 months. I put my money where my mouth is, and it worked. If I can do it, so can you. This can not only help you, but your business as well. Help your clients not only buy homes, but also pay their mortgage off faster and build equity sooner. When you add this kind of value to their lives, you're not just their agent, you're their go-to advisor for life. The Shred Method sets you apart and keeps your clients coming back. So go to theshredmethod.com to learn more about how you can shred your mortgage and help your clients do the same.
Yeah, so I am a little older, so I'm a little old school. So I do still for my like leads and stuff, I do a lot of 'em on my whiteboard, right? Which is like I have 2 whiteboards in my office. And that is just a daily reminder of like check-ins and things like that I know like, okay, this person is PCSing here, because to sit on a computer all day and just being able to go over it's just a little overwhelming for me. So, but as far as what I do use is I use Monday.com mostly just to be able to check the boxes of things I need to do when it comes to like sellers or buyers but I think keeping up with my leads is obviously in my CRM that I enjoy so much doing. But I mean, that's basically how I keep up with them, is just making sure that, I'm on top of that, and anyone that I need to reach back out to, I can.
So I have a pro tip for whiteboards. Make sure that you hang them on your wall, because if you have a cat and you leave them on the floor, they will lick it. I
No
was like,
way,
wait,
dude.
my clients, what the fuck?
Oh
Luckily,
my
my
God.
wife had me. My wife is trying to get me to move from Trello to OneNote.
I
I still
think
don't
it
even
is
know the
OneNote. I think it's called
OneNote.
OneNote. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what like the military uses. At least right now, that's what she used as an exec, where she was just pretty much like a glorified assistant for like a colonel. So she like knows OneNote in and out, and I have no idea what I'm doing there. So yeah, with like that one post, I got like a lot of outbound referrals. I was gonna go check. I was gonna go reach out to line number 4, and I was like, "Where the hell is line number 4? It's all smudged." I was like, "What the fuck happened?" So don't just leave them on the floor. That's my pro tip.
Oh my God. Dude, I have the funniest story. So one time I was like, my daughter was home and I was like, hey, her name was Jayliana. I was like, hey, babe, I'm going to do a work call. So, because they mom you to death. Mom, 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 right? I'm like, I have to go on a work call. So give me a little bit, right? And so I'm like, you're going to have to be quiet. You can stay here in my office, right? But you have to be quiet. And so she was like, okay, that's fine. Fair. So she's like behind me, which one of my whiteboards is kind of behind me, but to the side, so I can't see, right? So I'm on a Zoom call, blah, blah, whatever. Probably like 30 minutes. So after I look to be like, oh my gosh, you did so good. I look behind me, the whole whiteboard is erased from my leads. And it said, mom, 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 through the whole whiteboard. She wrote mom instead of saying mom, but deleted all my leads on my whiteboard. And I'm like, I didn't even know whether to be proud
That's
or
adorable.
pissed off.
Oh my
Ray was like,
gosh.
oh, like she did what I told her to do. Like I told her not to say mom, but she, obviously I also didn't tell her to not delete my whole
Yeah,
whiteboard.
got it.
So,
That's on you. You
yeah,
gotta
that
be
is, I mean,
specific.
so pro tip number 2 is put it so high that they can't reach it because it was definitely eye level, or being able to, write on it for her. So, uh,
Dude, that's
basically just put it
hilarious.
on the ceiling.
Oh my God. I remember I used to talk so much shit about whiteboards. I used to be like, why would you ever put it on a whiteboard when you could have it something digital? Because then if you move or whatever happened, the cat or the kid, then you always have it. But now I've gone on a whiteboard fucking frenzy. And like my entire half my wall in my one room is whiteboards. Our dining room, whiteboards, like everywhere through all of it. And I'm like, this is the best ever because you get this like huge visual and just you don't have to like click around to find it. It's just like fucking boom, there.
Absolutely. I mean, it's literally like a vision board, but like your own, like what, because, obviously it's like upcoming things, right? So you're like manifesting it daily, seeing it and just reading it and like, okay, I'm going to, I'm
Nice.
going to get that listing. I'm going to get that buyer, like all these things that you're going on. I think, I like to be in my face all the time. So
I used to also talk so much shit about I was the one who was like on lead listings, which I still am. I'm still like a primarily listing person. This is me catching up on what I almost said earlier. But lately, like I have a buyer. The first buyer that I almost turned it down. It was a referral. And they're like, hey, I got a buyer. And I was like, I don't do buyers. And then they like said the price point. And I was like, I do. I actually do buyers. You're right. I do. I'm great with them. Love them. But it's been so nice. And I think because to kind of bring this back to the two of you guys understand this, is like they're military and they're like, he was in for 30 plus years, like highly decisive, have already like knew what they wanted, had all the houses picked out, like whatever. And I do think that that's also something like when you're thinking through like ideal target client, that type of thing, it's like instead of just being like, I don't do buyers, like I used to say, it's like, who is the actual personality type? Because this buyer compared to like an upcoming listing that I'm doing is actually way less work because
yeah.
we 1 weekend of showings, under contract. Whereas like the listing is like, holy shit. But I'm making it harder myself because I'm trying to be like super extra with like all of the different marketing. But I'm just like doing like a time comparison. And so far, my buyers winning. I'm still team listing though, for the record.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
I just
Well,
wanted to talk.
but I think that's, I mean, and maybe that's why I like buyers so much because they are military buyers. And like I would say the majority of my buyers, I mean, obviously I work a lot with families, but are military men, like single military men. And they really are very, men put things in boxes, right? And so they're very like cut or dry. Like this is what I'm looking for. This is what I want. Does it meet the boxes? And that's just so easy for me. And I'm like, absolutely. But it also has this, like, which is like an added box, right? And they sometimes don't get excited like I do. But I mean, it's also they're just, I think it's the precedents that they set is like just amazing. I just and maybe it's the military that does that to them. You got to break them down, build them back up. But I don't know. But it just seems across the board always a good transaction with them.
Some military men, definitely not all. Some,
Well, I
but
get
I
the
will
good
say,
ones. So.
Yeah, you must get some good. Maybe that's the Air Force versus Army thing. Okay, so you get a lead, and whether it's on Instagram or however you typically get them, what's
Yeah.
the first step from there?
So it depends on the lead, but usually, I mean, I'm on the phone. So it is whether, like, if I get a phone number, then it's speed of lead, right? So I'm always like, I'm going to call them right away, text them right away, depending on what the situation looks like. So if it's usually, it's like, hey, I'm sending someone your way, they're looking to buy a house or whatever. And I get the phone number, it's like, all right, going into the office, boom. So obviously, setting up a phone call. If they don't answer, then I'll send them a text and then to book a buyer consultation. Really, I don't really like the whole like buyer consultation because it's like so professional. And that's not me. It's literally just an intro call. It's just, we talked about like what are your expectations? What are you looking for? Things like that. Just getting to know a little bit about themselves and their family. But yeah, and it's just usually a phone call or a text. And then from there, then I'm obviously sending them the stuff that I said that I would send them and then setting them up on a search. And then one thing that I just recently started doing is doing the search, but also sending them like homes that I think that so I go on the MLS every day and kind of like looking at things that I think that they would like, even if it gets sent to them, I'm like, hey, this checks all of the boxes. I know you probably got it, on your email, but I'm resending it to you. So I'll text them like basically all the homes that I think that are on the market that they would love. So, and then obviously just like
Question.
showings.
On your, like, buyer consult that's not because that's too professional of the word, on your intro call,
Yeah.
are you following a script or are you
Yeah.
just, like, totally hopping on there and just, like, charismaing their pants off?
Yeah, I do not
Yes.
follow any scripts ever. I just realistically, I mean, probably if I had like the mental capacity to, I would. However, when I've ever like scripted myself, like whether it's for social media or whatever, I just do this weird thing that I just sound so different and like I'm a robot and like I feel different and I don't like that feeling. So I 100% always want to be me, right?
Let
So,
me change the
sorry.
word, not script, checklist to make sure you don't miss any things, or is it just free flow? I meant to say checklist, I said script, I'm sorry.
I guess checklist, but it's like a mental checklist, right?
Gotcha.
So I do have it because, to stay organized in my thoughts, I do have a Google Doc that I put all my clients' first conversations in, right? So I'm not just go like free willy nilly, like I think they wanted a 2 bedroom or whatever. So so I will always have like their name, the phone number, like what time we talked out or whatever, and then everything that they're looking for. I'm literally like taking notes, just like I would with any type of intro call. So I always have that for reference, right? So when we get off the call, obviously I'm collecting their email, things like that. What's their wife's name or their husband's name, whatever. But realistically, on my document, it's going to kind of go over the same things anyways. So I'm pretty just I don't have like a checklist, but it's just in my head what I'm looking for.
And what do you send them afterwards?
So, I mean, I send them a copy of like working with realtors so that they have it. Also, whatever so I have like a buying process paperwork. I think, we have it on 5 pillars, Google Drive, right? Whatever it's called.
Words.
Yeah. So, anyways, a whole bunch of documents that I know that they need going forward. So, a copy of the offer to purchase, things like that. So, it's just a packet I just kind of send over so that everybody's on the same page when we start putting in offers.
Okay, makes sense. And then do you make them get financing locked away before the search, or are you just like, search takes 2 seconds, I'm gonna get them to love me, and then we'll figure this out, or what's your
Absolutely.
process?
So I do the search first. I don't do obviously any showings, right? Unless they're pre-approved with their lender. I also reach out to the lender, make sure we're good on see how we are like closing cost wise, things like that too. To build and also just build that relationship going forward. But and then also the majority of people are gonna ask, do you have any lenders to recommend? Right. So obviously I have my, you know, lender recommendations that I love to work with. So, that will be obviously in my intro call as well.
I love that first call and taking notes on what they originally said that they wanted, because as we start going rogue later on, I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I play it like from from curiosity, because it really is like, hey, you said that you wanted this type of property. If we're going rogue, it's time for another Zoom call. And just
Yeah.
the act of them being like, fuck, we need another Zoom call with Allie. They're like, you know what? No, you're right. You're right. I just wanted a one story, like,
Abort.
Well, and
that's
I feel like that's like, cause I'll have like the intro call with the husband, right? Like this is just an example, right? Cause I'm just gonna put genders out there, because the roles can all be like have been reversed. But usually like, because I'm usually doing an intro call with the husband because they will like have been in the military with Kevin or whatever it is. And so I'll do an intro call and they'll tell me something, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. And then he's like, my wife hates all of that. And I'm like, so I always try to get them on, like, when are you guys both together ready for a call? Even though the intro call, I'll always speed a lead with whoever's phone number I have, but I will set a call for both of them. But I mean, obviously, even that, even then, it still changes what they want, right? Because then we might go do showings and they're like, I hate everything. And I'm like, well, this is exactly what you asked for. But I'm always flexible too, because I know, I mean, going into it, you're like, this is what I want. And then, like, I think we all kind of change our minds. So I understand, but it is interesting to see how they do change initially to like what we actually end up going to contract for. But,
Oh my God. It's so
um,
true. They'll be like, this is like a non-negotiable for me. And then they'll find the house that they love and they want to offer. And I'm like, bitch, what about this? I said this.
well, and for me, it's always a lot of the times it's the budget, right? They're like, I cannot go over, let's just say like 250, right? Because here, like the homes are a little bit affordable. So, and then they'll go into a, $250,000 home and they're like, hell no. And so we end up going up on budget the majority of the time because like they want everything like brand new. So we go to 350, or whatever it is. So,
Which is
um,
always nice. It's better that direction
yeah.
than the other
I
one. No, I need trashier. Camille, give me
I never
worse.
have ever have I ever heard that.
I have a question. The When do you have the commission conversation? With the rule, like how has that changed since August? And I don't know, whatever you got in regard to that.
If you are looking to change brokerages this year so you can increase your business and you want to join us at eXp Realty and would like either myself, Ali Garced, or Shelby Johnson to personally sponsor you in, so that way you have access to 2 icon agents, text the word JOIN to either my number, 914-318-4918,
or Shelby's number, 859-267-3849.
If I sponsor you and you have access to the both of us and everything that's Five Pillars Nation, we have the checklist, the systems, the processes to help you scale your business. And don't take our word for it. We've had agents switch brokerages to join us that were stuck making $300,000 GCI, and they join us so they can scale. So text the word JOIN to those numbers and we'll take the next steps.
Yeah, so it's usually at the first or second intro call. I'm always like, basically what I charge is X percent, and there will be, depending on the homes, they will offer a certain percentage. And a question that I ask is like, are you wanting to see homes that don't pay my full percentage? Because if you do, then you would be paying the difference out of pocket at closing, right? But if you don't, then I won't send you any homes that are only paying me 2%, right? Or whatever it is. And so that way, like, because they would be like, well, you didn't send us this home, or like, we really like this house. And so then it's not awkward when I go, well, I didn't think you'd like the house because they're only paying 2%. So you're okay with paying the 1% or whatever it is, then let's go see it. Like, absolutely. So I always say it is sometimes a uncomfortable conversation because people are always thinking that, my commission's paid by the seller, except if they're like they haven't bought a house before, then they kind of are less awkward about it because people will say like, well, my last home, I didn't have to pay my agent. And I'm like, okay. Well, this time and I'm like, you
You
don't have to
did. You
pay
just
my commission.
financed it.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude,
Right.
that's my philosophy on all of it. When buyers are like, I didn't pay it or whatever, I'm like, actually the buyer's paying everything. Like always. They're just financing it. And so you don't feel it.
Yeah, your lender's just not telling you.
And that's so interesting. So do you have because like, they can't tell you upfront whether or not a commission is being offered. So does that mean that you're calling,
Yeah.
all or
I
texting or whatever?
If I can do a big ol' eye roll, I would. But I feel like, yes, like, absolutely. So, especially if they're like, "No, I don't wanna pay any commission," I will call anyways. So I'm like, "Hey," I schedule my showings, then I'm on the phone, like, "Hey, we have a showing scheduled for 10 o'clock." I mean, it's usually a text because listing agents aren't great at answering their phone, and
Peasants, buyer's agents? Ugh. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
no,
I do pick up
but
my phone.
yeah, but I also feel like, being a listing agent, you get so many phone calls, so I get it. But I also but this is also why I roll because, like, I shouldn't have to call. Like, we should find a way to be like, "This is where it's at," even though it's not on the MLS because it's so time consuming and it's actually, like, a waste of everybody's time. But yes, I do check for the reason for my buyer because I don't want to put them in a situation where they're not covering my full commission and then they love the home and then I'm like, "Well," and then they're like, "Well, I can't afford it," or whatever the case may be. So, I do always call to check on the commission.
I know there's tons of philosophies out there, and I feel like this is very one that I've heard repeatedly from people in Fayetteville, so I feel like it's probably like a market thing. Like, my philosophy, even as a buyer's agent, is that even if the seller is like, "I'm not paying a commission," they will pay a commission if you increase your purchase price, the amount, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I'm like, it's not about the commission, it's about the bottom line, and if the agent can't or won't communicate that to the seller, I found that most listing agents that we talked to were like, "Yeah, dude, I mean, the seller hasn't put aside anything, but absolutely, if you bring an offer and you want 10 grand and you go 10 grand over, fuck yeah, they'll give it to you, no problem." So I wonder if that's also like because I just don't call. I'm just like, no, like we're gonna put it in the offer. Like we're gonna write in the offer and then we can negotiate from there. So I don't know. It's interesting to hear like the different pockets throughout the country and the different processes that different agents have for it's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, and we haven't hit the, no commission here. So sellers are still paying a commission. It's just a lower commission, which is interesting because, like, I feel most listing agents are still making the same commission. So it falls on the buyer's agent, right? To like for their commission to be like reduced or whatever. So, but yeah, so I've never heard like they're not paying any buyer's agent commission. It'll just be a small amount. So it's just really the buyers wanting to make up that difference, which definitely I think if the listing agent prepared the seller for that conversation of being able to increase the purchase price to include a commission, I think would be so much easier. But I don't think that it's like a conversation here. I mean, it's definitely a conversation that I have had,
Yeah.
but I don't think that most listing agents are doing a lot to prepare their sellers for many things.
Yeah. And it's frustrating too because I know I had a listing that the seller literally was like, we got an offer, it was ridiculous. It was like 40 grand over. And they were asking for like a 2.5% commission. He's like, I don't want to pay commission. I'm like, okay. So let's just pretend that, you got an offer as at list price and no commission. Your net would be this. At this, you have a 40 grand over and paying into this is your net. I'm just curious, like to your pocket, which one
Yeah,
feels better? But I do feel like you're right in that is the responsibility of the listing agent to be able to not because a lot of agents are probably like, nope, he said no, he's not paying a commission instead of being like, let's have a conversation, you know?
absolutely. And it should be negotiable, right? Like all things real estate. But I also think that's, being that we have, I mean, I guess it's conventional loans too, but VA loans, right? When the appraisal comes back, is it going to come back over listing price? So at that point, then it would, if we do include like a gap addendum, right? Then it would really come out of the buyer's pocket anyway. So
Right.
I mean, is that effective or not?
It also depends on I gave the example to show exactly the same bottom line if they were offering a full price offer. But I go back to it depends on your market too, because I'm not going to come in 10 grand over to account for my 10 grand commission. I'm going to submit the offer that my client wants to offer at full or under and include my commission. Because if there's not multiple offers on the table and the seller's sitting there and they're like, I don't want to buy, I don't want to pay a commission, but this is what options do I have? They're going to try to work with the offer at hand. And so all of it depends. I'm not saying to come out and increase your offer regardless of the scenario. If it's been on the market for 70 days, like don't offer 10 just for your 10, write what your clients want and then ask yours as a seller paid concession. I don't know. It's all fine just to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So after you have the initial call, they sign the buyer broker, and usually these are out of state, right? They're not yet there.
Some
Okay.
are out of state, some are here. So it just
Okay.
depends. Yeah.
Okay. This is where clients love to then start texting Camille 1,500 different Zillow links. What do you do from there? As far as like, do you meet them at the property or wait for finance? Or, what's the next step once everything's good to go and you're working with them?
Yeah. So once we get under like a buyer agreement, right? Then at that point, then the next step is I'm like, okay, so first we're going to get qualified, right? Or, pre-approved for a VA loan. And so usually, I mean, I have lenders here that can do it within days. So it's not like a lengthy process. And usually most buyers are going to contact me like 3 months out, right? So we usually have enough time, sometimes even longer than that. They're like 6 months. Let's start looking, right? So sometimes when it's like 6 months, I'll be like, hey, let's check back in. Because if I start sending them homes 6 months prior, they're like, I want this one. I want this one. And I'm like, okay, but you got to pay 2 mortgages for like 4 months. So I try not to set them up for failure, right? Because I obviously want them to get what they want. However, if they can't afford it, right? Anyways, so that was off topic. But so once I get that, once I get them going and everything signed, then I will get them pre-approved. We get the pre-approval back, and then bam, here comes the text of all the Zillow links, right? And sometimes, I mean, it just depends on the client. Usually, I have some clients that don't even send me anything. Like they'll just be like, well, what do you think? And those are mostly like the out of state ones. Unless they've been here before and they're very particular about where they want to go. Then I will get more feedback from my buyers, but usually they're like, send me what you got, right? And so then I kind of like go through them and see what they think and then what meets all their boxes. And then we'll kind of just have conversations about it and then schedule showings at that point. Usually I would say I probably do like 5 showings mostly per buyer, maybe 10 if we're like out of state and we don't really know like where or what. But I'm also very real when it comes to my buyers. So if there's some shit that I'm like, we are not looking at that house because of X, Y, and Z, whether it's like the area, just because I don't know if, I know obviously Shelby, you've been to Bragg, but Ali, I don't know if you've been here. But there's pockets of places where I wouldn't live. So I'm like, if you have 2 small kids and you're living right outside the gate, right? I'm going to have them check crimespot.com so that you guys can see. Sometimes they'll send me homes and I'm like, yeah, we're not looking at that. But check this out, right? So I'm not steering anyone. However, I'm like, do your due diligence because, so usually it ends up being like 5 showings that I normally do unless there's, we do 2 weekends of showings or something. But I'll also have some clients that will come in. They'll be out of state, but then they'll come in for a weekend and then we'll do showings that weekend.
And this is starting to cover your tool that you brought for the Agent Goldmine. So theagentgoldmine.com, everyone can download your tool. Can we start covering, or can you describe what you brought?
Okay. Yeah. The tool that I brought is basically a checklist of everything that I need to do for my buyers and my sellers. So it is going from the first conversation to sending contracts out or whatever I need to do to get started. And then it's literally schedule showings, everything that I need to do to actually continue in the process, right? So there's never a place that I'm stuck because I know the next thing that I need to do. So basically just checking all those boxes so that I am effective, but I'm also making sure that I'm meeting the expectations that, they have set for me.
The checklist, yeah, agentgoldmine.com, get them. I'm back to the questions. Also, if you're watching this and wonder why Ali left, Ali had to go. She had an appointment. But I'm still here with Camille. Okay. So when you have found the house They're like, "This is the one. We love it." You're like, "Great, awesome." What do you do next to decide on what to offer? What's your process from there?
So I will always do a CMA for my buyers, right? Because I want to know what houses are selling for in this market, just because I want them to get a good deal, right? So I don't ever want them to overpay for a house unless we're in a market where we need to, right? So let me go home, let me, do my due diligence, right? As your agent. So obviously it depending on what they're looking for. So whether it's crime spot, whether it's schools, whatever. So we'll double check those things before we even put in an offer. And then obviously price it accordingly depending on how many days it's been on the market. Right now, we're seeing houses sit, right? So it's a little, I don't know the last time that I've actually offered like at list price. It's usually somewhere under right now. And that's obviously not going to be the case. It's winter right now. So PCS season comes and we'll get a little bit more competitive. But so basically just see what other homes are selling for in the area in the last 6 months. And then from there, I will bring those numbers back to the buyer. And then what are their thoughts? What are some other, and then I will go over the questions that I need on the offer to purchase. Are you wanting to offer seller concessions? Are you wanting to include a home warranty? And then, or not offer, are you wanting to get seller concessions, right? And then even if they're not, because, on the MLS, they'll be like offering, $5,000 seller concession. And I'm like, well, we got 4%, right? Then go up to. So how high do we want to, depends on how long it's been sitting, how high do we want to put this thing? So just kind of going over the offer to purchase with them. That's obviously just questions in my head and then getting that together. And then once we get everything answered for the offer to purchase, then I'll obviously send it over for them to sign. I also have them look over the disclosures first before we price it, because if there's something, obviously that is being disclosed by the seller that we need to fix or that we're aware of, then maybe our offer would be a little lower. So
What are you seeing with, because due diligence is not a thing that's nationwide. For those listeners who are not in North Carolina, due diligence is a non-refundable deposit. Essentially, it's like earnest money. You get it back if you want to back out within that inspection period. Due diligence is like you cough it up front, and if you walk the next day, you ain't getting that shit back. So, what are you seeing, Camille, in regard to non-refundable and in regard to earnest money?
I paid off one of my mortgages in just 4 months thanks to the shred method. I personally use the shred method to manage my money and crush my mortgage faster than I ever thought possible. The system was simple, the customer service is top notch, and the results speak for themselves. $121,000 of a mortgage balance gone in just 4 months. I put my money where my mouth is, and it worked. If I can do it, so can you. This can not only help you, but your business as well. Help your clients not only buy homes, but also pay their mortgage off faster and build equity sooner. When you add this kind of value to their lives, you're not just their agent, you're their go-to advisor for life. The Shred Method sets you apart and keeps your clients coming back. So go to theshredmethod.com to learn more about how you can shred your mortgage and help your clients do the same.
yeah, so a lot of offers will come back, suggest that they do whatever they're wanting to put, right? I do half and half, or like very small amount for earnest money, say $500, right? We'll do very small amount for earnest money. Nobody cares about earnest money. Even when I do that, the offer will come back to put that 500 into the due diligence, right? Which is like fine. So, most of the time I'm like, we don't even have to offer earnest money, So when I'm working with buyers, I'm always like, okay, so what are like your reserves? Because I don't like to get into financial stuff because I know it makes people feel very uncomfortable, that conversation of like, how much money you got in your account, right? But I'm like, whatever you would feel okay losing if we backed out of this contract is what you should offer for due diligence. Like, as long as we can continue looking, basically you have the same amount going forward, but it's always going to start at like $1,000 for due diligence, right? Maybe 2,000, 2,500 for due diligence. Okay, PCS season is a whole nother beast though. So in PCS season, if they really want the house, it's probably going to be like 5,000, can be up to 10,000, but also depends on what we're offering. Because if we're offering a gap addendum of $10,000, we're going to lower our due diligence, right? So, because obviously that's, 10 over asking, whatever. So, or 10 over the appraisal amount. So basically, it just really depends on the offer is what I advise them to do. But I'm always like, don't put yourself in a situation where either you can't offer on another house if we were to back out, if there was something significantly wrong with this house. And also don't put your family in a situation, right? Because like that's the whole point is like, this is to be a positive experience. So I would, obviously during PCS season, I would prefer them to do a gap addendum than a higher due diligence. Just because the gap addendum you might not have to pay, right? So if it appraises higher, then we're good to go. Then, obviously the due diligence is at a risk of losing if we don't close.
It's so funny because I know that there's people out there from different states who are like, oh, that's terrifying and horrible. They have to put down non-refundable. And you don't have to, but like if you want to get your offer accepted, you kind of have
Yeah.
to. But now that I've come to Kentucky and there's no due diligence here, it's all earnest money. And I just can't believe it. From the seller perspective, from the buyer's perspective, it's great. It's no
Yeah.
skin in the game. It's like, oh, I can back out anytime and get all my fucking money back. But like from the seller's perspective, it's like, oh, so they have no skin in the game. They can offer whatever they want. They can fuck off for the full, whatever 2-week inspection period, whatever they negotiate. And then they can back out. And the seller is now left with having to go back on the market and have that stigma attached to it. And they had wasted 2 weeks, another, 50% of their mortgage payment that month with nothing to show for it. And it's just so funny having come from North Carolina first to see the way different, because now on the listing side, I'm like, yo, they're like earnest money. I'm like, yo, but how about non-refundable earnest money? Where we at with that?
Yeah.
It's just funny.
So in Kentucky, so obviously due diligence here is like where you're wanting your offer to be accepted. So for there is just earnest money, like putting higher earnest money.
Literally just earnest money, which just like you
Okay.
said in the beginning, you're like, it really means nothing.
Yeah.
Except that here in this market, since there is no due diligence and they don't know of operating any other way, it means something to
Yeah.
them. They're like, oh, well, it's so yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That just means you just got to get all your shit done before your due diligence
right.
ends,
Yeah.
right? So you can back out.
Yeah, you can be way less
Without,
serious. You can
yeah.
just fucking like it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, well, the crazy thing is like, I mean, even as a buyer's agent, I mean, they still have paid for an inspection. They've paid for an appraisal, right? So like they do have some skin, like there's money to be lost if they back out. And like, unless like funding, doesn't come through or whatever happens. But I mean, most buyers don't really be like, okay, I'm going to just pay these two things. And then I'm also going to back out over nothing. Right. So,
That's
but I
true.
mean,
That is true.
yeah,
And
I mean,
inspection, those add up.
yeah, they do. Yeah, especially like, for the VA loans, you need a termite inspection. Obviously you're going to do your home inspection, but you need a termite inspection as well. So like just that itself is like $500. So like, and then the appraisal is like, $800-900 depending on, your lender. But I think, and before, the lenders used to roll those into the closing costs and now you have to pay those up front. What most of the lenders, right, just obviously is depending on the lender. So yeah, it is just crazy the way that that's crazy the way that Kentucky does it because I feel like that's not fair for the sellers. Because there should be
They get
and
nothing.
realistically, if they like at 13 days, if they cancel their contract, right, you put it back on the market, they still gonna have to pay like probably 2 more mortgages. Because you still have 30 days to close. So
Yeah. Well, I think
that's
it's
just
the
fair.
stigma even. It's just like why because everywhere's like, why did it fall through? Why did it fall through? And even if you're like
Absolutely.
at no fault to the seller, they're like,
Seller.
maybe. But
Maybe
whatever.
because you just don't know. I mean, and
Yeah.
I would hope that an agent wouldn't lie about that. However,
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
no fault to the seller because they didn't want to do any repairs because the floor was rotting. No
Yeah.
fault.
That's
So,
yeah, very fun. Okay, so we have your offer accepted, and I know that we are over time, which has been lovely. I've loved this. I do you have like 2 more minutes? I want to ask about your fast.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so recently, guys, Camille recently did a juice fast, and this is something that Drake, my husband, and I were just binging on YouTube the other day, like the benefits of fasting, about how it wasn't, it's like Camille said even before we started recording, like the goal not to lose weight, but there's a lot of benefits that come around with fasting. So, Camille, can you share your experience, what you did, what benefits you found, or what things you hated about it?
Yeah. So, I definitely feel like it needs to be like a quarterly thing, right? So I did a 3-day juice cleanse, basically what it was. And raw juicery was like the only organic juice that I can find, right? Because I'm not gonna juice pesticides.
No.
So which a lot of them, like 99.9 of them are all non-organic. Anyways, fast forward. So all the juices, there were like 8 juices a day. So like they all had the nutrients in it, but it's interesting, like the things that I found out at the end. But so it was a 3-day juice cleanse. So no food whatsoever. It gives you like a pre-juice or fasting checklist that I did not follow. So next time I will do that because one of the things that really messed me up was I didn't cut off caffeine to give myself time to repair or to recover from like the no caffeine headache that you get, right? When you're addicted to caffeine. So day one was really, really tough because I didn't have any caffeine. So I was like, dying. Yeah, it wasn't the lack of caffeine. It was that I had a huge headache. And so that was really hard. But day 2, I felt so much better. Day 3, I felt amazing. And I think for me, it was mostly like the mental toughness of not being able to eat. So, yes, was I hungry? Absolutely. Did I crave tacos? Absolutely. But I think just being able to be like, I got this. And, in every day, wake up and being like, I'm okay. And I think overall, it wasn't like a cleanse to like clean me out because that's not what happened. It was literally like I had all the nutrients that I needed in the juices, but for me, it was a more mental thing. Like, can I do this? There's a lot of people that I know that do like the master cleanse, and that's literally like lemon water and salt. And they'll do that up to like 7 days. That's a whole nother beast that hopefully I'll be able to tackle. But going back to, day 4, right? When I reintroduced food, I noticed that my body was only craving like nutrient dense food. So it was almost wanting to be on a raw, like vegan diet. I'm already a vegetarian, haven't had meat in like 20 years. So I don't eat meat anyways. So obviously I wasn't, craving anything like that. But it was like, okay, almonds. It was like grapes. It was like, all the things that I'm like, my kids will snack on, but like it's not something that I like find in my diet so much. So day 4, I just went to basically snacking on like vegan snacks, seaweed snacks, things like that. And then I slowly like worked my way up back to having like a dinner. So I still fast in the morning. I fast till usually around noon. And then I will eat like a small whatever lunch. And then usually it's very high in protein lunch. And then I eat like a dinner with the kids and stuff like that. So if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I do share a lot of my
Drop it.
meals.
Drop your handle.
Cam_Bernal-Johnson on Instagram. That's my choice of platform, but I do share a lot of my meals just because I do have 2 small kids. And I mean, all my meals have to have vegetables because we don't eat meat. So there's a lot of ways to hide vegetables. But that are great tasting. So, my kids, they'll be the only ones at the birthday party at the veggie platter, right? Versus like grabbing chips. So anyways, I worked my way up to that, but literally have not had caffeine since. That was weeks ago. And I just feel amazing. Like I just feel like my body needed a reset, mental, physically. It did take me about 7 days to get back into the gym, which was like super hard because I was just super kind of like weak just because I did lose some weight. But that was probably the biggest challenge with like not being able to work out. Some people work out fasted like throughout their fast. It wasn't for me because I wasn't trying to like pass out. But I work out fasted in the morning though. So when I work out, in the morning, then I'm completely fasted. So that doesn't bother me, but it's just because, I've had it high protein for lunch and dinner. So
I love what you said about, like, having it be a cleanse, like, both physical and mental, because that's why we started looking into this is because, I probably saw someone on Instagram being like, "The fast, it basically eats cancer," which is really fascinating to me, so I was like, "What do you mean?" And apparently it's, like, called a a trophy. Did I say that wrong? Do you know what I'm talking about? It starts with
No.
an A and it's got like a PHY at the end and some
Yeah.
letters in between. But it's this thing that when your body fasts after the 24-hour mark between like the 24 and up to 72, but like max benefits between like 24 and 48, depending on which YouTube video you watch, because they're all slightly different, you know?
But they're
But
all
it
experts.
what your body does is after it's like completely depleted, you know, the carbs, the sugars, you know, some of the fat that it's eating because you haven't been replenishing it, it starts to find energy in other sources in your body. And where it goes first is the ones that need to be gone because they're dead or they're unhealthy or whatever. And so this fast turns into an actual body cleanse, like you said, like truly cleansing your body of the cells that are more likely to cause significant damage in regard to disease, et cetera, if you don't cleanse. And so I'm like, shit, man. I think I like what you said about quarterly too, because I'm like, how often do you even do this? Like,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
absolutely.
fast.
Well, and also, like, if you go back, right, hunter gatherers, right? Like,
Mhm.
if you go back, we only ate what we got, right? So
Right.
what we hunted or what we gathered. So there were times that we didn't eat,
Right.
and we still survived somehow, right? So there wasn't always something to be killed or something to be gathered. Feel like and I think mostly we're just so spoiled in being able to go to our refrigerator and be
Totally.
like, oh, let me just grab, whatever for today or for right now because my stomach's a little hungry,
Right.
right? But
Just the
like,
tiniest bit.
yeah, I mean, and like it's growling, but like you're okay. You're gonna survive,
Right.
right? I try to teach that to my kids. They don't understand. They're like snack monsters, right? But they've also just been raised in America where literally they have access to food 24 hours, right? If we
Right.
don't have enough snacks in the house, they're gonna die. So I feel like being able to be hungry is actually really good. And I
Yeah.
think knowing that you don't always need food will help you not be overweight. And then knowing the benefits of the mental part of it too is like having the focus, having the energy, being able to know that, even though you do need some type of fuel, right? It doesn't have to be in the things that we consume. So I do think, juicing is really good. Like in the morning, we do like a morning smoothie every single day because I have to catch the nutrients when I can get them, especially for the kids to send them off the day. I'm not going to give them like a donut to go to
Fuck
school.
no.
Uh, so, and that's obviously me staying consistent with it too. So, they help me, push me to be better as well. But I think that, even if you have a smoothie in the morning for your breakfast, you don't really have to eat until like probably dinner, but you can
Yeah.
do, a light lunch. But
Totally. There's a guy, Peta Attila. Have you heard of him? I
and
probably just butchered his fucking name. Peter something with an A. But he has like done so much writing and speaking and multiple books and testing on his own self about like fasting, but also like just diet, exercise, and also a lot of the stuff that you and I love, the
yeah,
self-development, mindset, like all the fucking shit, man. But
all the good
he
shit.
all the fucking shit. So he does a 22-hour fast every day. So
Awesome.
his window is 2 hours and he eats from like I think it's 6 to 8 PM and then we'll just fast. And he says it's really liberating, kind of like what you said where it's like we are in a society that makes you think you have to eat at certain times and like if you're not then they even all these reasons like you're going to lose energy and you're going to muscle mass and all these like you have to keep eating. But he said that it's really liberating to not be constricted to such a schedule where it's like no, I
Yeah.
don't fucking have to eat. I
Yeah.
can I'm in control of, everything. Like the food is not controlling me, which I thought
Yeah,
was interesting.
absolutely. Well, and even have you seen or have you watched the documentary on Netflix about the guy that wants to like reverse his
I haven't
aging
watched
process?
it, but I've like seen clips and stuff. I think it's so
Okay,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he only eats like one time a day. So he also like does all this extra shit, but like obviously he spends like $2 million a year on reversing his age a little
Yeah.
extreme.
Yeah.
But I also think we need those people to be extreme so that we know like, okay, well, I'm not gonna die if I only eat. And he
Totally.
has, I think it's like 11 a.m. he eats or
Okay.
something.
Yeah.
And his son's like following his footsteps in a lot of the stuff that he does. But I mean, I think it's just important for us to grow, read, and know what works for our bodies because everybody's different, right?
Totally.
And so I don't ever like preach what I do on other people. I just share my experience because, just like for diets, right? People are like, oh, I do the carnivore diet, I do this diet, I do that. And, I don't really like the word diet because that means short lived, but it's your just your way of life, right? Like, however your body feels comfortable, do that. And
Yeah.
however you feel comfortable in your body, do that. As long as you're not hurting yourself or other people. Full disclosure.
One of the many reasons why I love and respect you so much.
Well, I appreciate
And this we have gone way over, but I knew that would be the case because I just was like, I want to fucking chat.
that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
remind everyone what market you're in and where they can find you on socials and what's the best way to reach out.
Yeah. So I am in the Fort Bragg, Fort Liberty area in North Carolina. And you can find me on Instagram and on Facebook. Instagram is Cam_Bernal-Johnson. Facebook is just my full name, Camille Bernal-Johnson. If you want to reach out to me on my cell phone, it is 714-351-9241. If you have anyone obviously moving to the area or you are wanting to list your home, let me know. I got you.
Love it. Perfect. And just a reminder, guys, if you want her checklist, go to theagentgoldmine.com. And otherwise, that is all we have for today. Camille, thanks for coming on the show. And listeners, be a bro and share this show. Bye.